Welcome back to Sports Hop. You already know what time it is. Back at it. It's your boy Mack B. I got Solomon in the building as well. We got another hot show for you today. Episode 28 is all the way live. And speaking of all the way live, let's give a big shout out, Solomon. Let me hear some applause to the Dallas Mavericks. Okay.
Yeah. Let's give it to them. Why not?
Yeah, they deserve it. I mean, they were in ICU for the first 3 games, and they came back to life. They got resuscitated. Shout out to Luka Doncic. I know that he claims he didn't hear all the chatter and all the criticism, but guess what? In the era of social media and the internet and radio and TV, I know that them birds was chirping in his ear. So he stepped up big time. He had 29 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals in the pivotal Game 4 win for the Mavs. It was either win or go home. So Luka stepped up his game, and he also stepped up the pace of the game. So I liked how he made some adjustments in Game 4. He was playing at a much faster pace. His court vision was phenomenal. He was distributing. He was throwing some lobs. I like what he did. When he did go to the floor, Solomon, I didn't really see the whining and the crybaby attitude that he usually exemplifies. So shout out to Luka, for taking off the bib and getting it together in Game 4 and stepping up. And most importantly, what I noticed on the defensive side of the ball is when he was the primary defender against the Boston Celtics, who were on offense, they only shot 2 for 9. So out of 9 attempts, they only made 2 shots. So Luka made the adjustments. The Mavs and Jason Kidd made the adjustments. Kyrie Irving also chipped in 21 points. Derek Lively was all the way live. He grabbed 12 boards and had 11 rebounds. So Exum came off the bench and contributed 10 points. And even Hardaway Jr., I know it was garbage time, but he nailed 5 3-pointers and had 15 points. So the Mavericks seem to have woken up. Let's see how long that wakenness will be, because Game 5 is Monday night, right around the corner. In terms of Game 5 and what I'm seeing, I think the Celtics back home in Boston, I still believe that they're the better team with more talent. They have been clearly the better coach team. Shout out to Joe Mazzulla as well. So I think, the Mavs are going to be done in Boston on Monday night. I think that the Celtics wrap it up at home, capturing hopefully their 18th world championship, surpassing the Lakers. They're currently tied at 17 apiece. So I think that they'll definitely make the adjustments. I think Jason Tatum will have a much better game. He was only 15 points. I think he was 4 of 12 from the field, if I'm not mistaken. Jaylen Brown only had 10 points. So they were sleepwalking out there. Solomon, give me your perception on Monday night in Game 5. What do you think is going to go down in Beantown, man? Talk to me.
Well, first of all, just looking at the game they had there in Dallas. I mean, it's very, very difficult to close a team out on the road when you're trying to sweep. Your motivation's not there, because half of you is thinking, I'd love to do this in front of our home crowd on our home floor. And at the same time, you're getting that other team's best punch. They're going to go all out. There's pride on the line. There's manhood. There's everything on the line right there in front of their home fans. They can't go out on a sweep on their home floor. And so you knew it was going to be a blowout. I was very surprised when I looked up and they said the score was something like 52-28. And I was like, okay, well, not surprising. But, I hear that Boston pulled a lot of their starters in the third quarter. That was going to be an uphill battle.
Late in the third, yeah.
Yeah, and
both teams did.
Yeah, and then from there, it's like you knew it was over. So I fully expect Boston to win at home. I won't necessarily say it'll probably be an ugly game, just because Dallas is going to be a scrappy team. They're going to come in there and do whatever they have to do. But yeah, I think ultimately, Boston just has size on its side. And like I said, we talked about this the first time. I feel like these guys have just constantly improved every year. They haven't taken a step back.
Right.
And I really feel like it's their time. So yeah, I expect Boston to close it out and raise that next championship banner.
And speaking of championship pedigree, I got to give an apology and a big time shout out to Joe Mazzulla, because I questioned his coaching acumen and I didn't think that he would be able to pull this off in the finals, and I was totally off.
He still looks like a little kid, though.
Yeah, he does look like an 18-year-old kid going into college, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he became an assistant in 2019 with the Celtics. At the time, Ime Udoka was still, calling the shots in Boston. He was the head coach. So he was basically under his wing. But Joe Mazzulla has shown the ability to strategize in-game adjustments, particularly in the first 3 games. Now, they did lay an egg the other night in Game 4. With the exception of Game 4, Joe Mazzulla has clearly outcoached Jason Kidd. I respect, his leadership. I respect his player development. I like the direction that he's leading the Celtics in moving forward. Not only for this particular 2024 NBA Finals, Solomon, but I believe going into the future that Boston has the ability to really make a long-term run if they continue to make the organizational moves that they've made, because Brad Stevens is a phenomenal executive. Shout out to Brad Stevens, who came out of Butler, and he was a head coach for a number of years in the NBA. Now he's in the front office. So between Mazzulla and Brad Stevens, they've been making great moves organizationally. I like the direction that the Celtics are going in. And if they can get this title, which I believe we all think they will, I think moving forward, Boston has a great shot to become kind of a mini dynasty and maybe win, in the next 3 to 5 years, a couple more championships. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep that core nucleus intact. I think the Celtics are viable to make a long-term playoff run. But I got to give love to Joe Mazzulla, who proved me wrong. He spent 10 years in the college ranks coaching. I believe he was in Maine for a few years, a couple other small schools. Came on board in 2019, and now that he's the head coach, he's only been a head coach for under a 2-year time frame, and he's done a great job. Even last year, when they were down 3-0 to Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Boston came back and won 3 consecutive games, pushed it to a Game 7 in which they eventually lost. They got blown out on their home floor, but still, I got to give love to Joe Mazzulla. All the adjustments, all the player development that the Celtics have been able to facilitate, nothing but love and respect. So moving forward, watch out for the Celtics in the East. The West, as we know, Solomon, is always a dogfight every single year, right?
Yeah.
So keep in mind one other thing to touch on when it comes to the Celtics. They drafted well, right? Because in 2016, they drafted Jason Tatum out of Duke. And in 2017, they got Jaylen Brown, who came out of Cal. They both were 3rd-round picks. They did a great job through the draft. I really questioned the Celtics when they traded Marcus Smart away. I thought he was their emotional floor leader. He was the roughhousing dude. He was the dog, right, that would get in people's faces. But with the acquisition of Drew Holiday, that proved definitely viability for the Celtics, and he's made huge contributions. He was a no-show in Game 4, but, the first couple games of the series, Drew Holiday was on my radar as the potential MVP for Boston early on. So they've got some key players. I know Porzingis is banged up, and he's battling an injury, but to be honest with you, I think the Celtics can wrap it up at home on Monday night, even without Porzingis getting on the floor.
Who would you be happiest for when they win this, or if they win this title? Who would you be happiest for on that team?
That's a great question. To be honest, I got to go with the veteran Al Horford.
Me too. That's what I was going to say.
Al Horford, hands down. I mean, OG, old school. I remember watching him when he played with the Hawks. I mean, I think back in those days, I still think they had the Omni Arena open, if I'm not mistaken. That's how old and how long it's been for Al Horford. But he's a great player. He's definitely a great role player, a leader in the locker room for Boston. So I'm extremely going to be happy for him. Tatum and Brown, I mean, these guys are young. They're hungry. I'll be happy for the whole squad. But if there's one particular player that stands out to me, Solomon, it's got to be my man Al Horford, right?
Yeah. Hey, I was just pulling up some stats, and I see Jaylen Brown was actually a year before Jason Tatum, 2000.
So Brown was in 2016.
Yeah, Jason Tatum was 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Both 3rd-round picks, though, in the first round.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, the number 3 pick in the first round of the draft.
Absolutely.
So interesting stuff. But I like the fact that, Boston built their franchise in terms of hopefully their future dominance. They did it organically, right? They didn't have these mega blockbuster, trades where all these star players are coming in. You can't do that anymore anyway in the NBA with the new agreements in place, but I just like how they naturally built the team up.
Right.
And they've been rising, like you said, the past few years. They just been growing and building character, building further development. I like the direction that the Celtics are headed in. We shall see. We still got a game on Monday night. I believe, and Solomon both believe, that they'll wrap it up on Monday night. Speaking of wrapping things up, let's go to the Bay Area. We got Mr. Klay Thompson, a future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest shooters to ever touch a basketball, next to Steph Curry, of course. The Splash Brothers may no longer be a duo. Word out of the Bay Area, Klay Thompson is not happy. He recently removed, following the Golden State Warriors on social media, and he removed a majority of his posts that associate him with the Warriors.
Wow, what?
So keep in mind, many people are like, that's not a big deal. To me, that's a clear sign and an indication to me that you trying to bounce. You trying to move on. Kind of like, you know, when you had that problem with a wife or a girlfriend, soon to be ex-girl, you know, the writing is on the wall. He out there looking for a new lover out there in the NBA. I'm telling you right now, he looking for a new team.
Either that or he's trying to make his current lover jealous.
Well, that could be the case, but I believe Klay Thompson isn't happy. I have some sources around the league. Now, that has not been completely confirmed, but many people do see, particularly on the executive level and other players, that this is a sign of things to come. I mean, he made $43 million last year, which is a huge bag, right? He made $43 million. He came on late in the year, like the last 6 weeks of the season. He played much better. Keep in mind, he had some serious injuries that he was battling in the last 3 years. Came back from that knee injury that he tore in the finals when they played the Raptors in the finals. So he's had to work through a lot of injuries. I respect his work ethic and what he's been able to do. His last game was definitely a nightmare. He went 0 for 10 against the Sacramento Kings in that play-in game to see who can advance in the playoffs. So if that was indeed his last game, he had a donut. He went 0 for 10. That's not the Klay Thompson that we all know and love. I still believe he can play at a high level. And I think any team, particularly the Orlando Magic, who I know love Klay Thompson.
Look at you calling it out already.
Hey, I'm just calling what I hear and what I potentially see. So I would not be surprised if Klay goes down to Florida, warm weather climate, no state tax. I'm not mad at him. I think they have enough cap space where they can pay him and take care of him. But he's still under contract, or actually he's going to be a free agent if I'm not mistaken, because they haven't worked out a deal for him. Last year they were in talks, but talks came to a stalemate last summer is when they begun the talks, but things kind of died down and they weren't able to progress forward. But Klay Thompson is a great player. Shout out to you, Klay. Sports Hop, we got love for you, man. We know you can still play at a high level. You can still shoot the rock with the best of them. So we shall see. I think the Warriors dynasty is over. I think that ended, last year. I don't think they're the same team. They lost some key pieces. Steph Curry, as great as he is, he's getting a little bit older. Draymond Green is getting a little bit older. They still got some newbies like Kuminga and some other players who I think can play at a high level. But still, I think the Warriors have to, add some additional pieces to really compete in the heavy-loaded Western Conference. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, going back to Klay Thompson, I mean, it's him and Steph Curry for so long, right? But I think people tend to forget that they're two different people, two different body sizes, two different, injury histories.
Yeah.
I mean, Steph Curry is still running around screens at, 36 now, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Klay Thompson's a different player. He's more of a spot-up shooter.
He just pulls up.
Yeah, and so he's a little bit, age has impacted him in a different way. He's a little slower on the defensive side. He's not able to be the elite defender and stay in front of guys like he once was. And I feel, in a way, like the Warriors have almost sort of done him an injustice in a little bit, in that, they're not doing what's best for him. They're just pressuring him to sort of continue to be who he was. And when he's not that person, it's like, just sort of like, now you're an afterthought. and maybe you utilize him in a different kind of role in a different way or whatever. But I do think this is the time. If he was going to move, this would be the time to move. He's 34 years old right now. He can still shoot lights out, and I think him having a fresh start someplace else, not necessarily being under the pressure of his previous stardom, I think will be good for him, and I think he's got a good, 2 or 3 years left where he can really impact the team. Don't be surprised if the Lakers figure something out, though. I'm telling you, it always seems, and I'm not even spouting numbers or anything like that. I'm just saying they always seem to find a way to get the players that they need to get.
His daddy, shout out to Michael Thompson, was a former Laker. So
absolutely, yeah.
We can't sleep on that. So I still think Klay can play at a high level, provided he can stay healthy. We shall see how that all unfolds. But word out of the Bay Area, Klay Thompson potentially could be on the move. He doesn't seem to be happy with the organization. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. You will hear it on Sports Hop. Please believe that. Moving on to Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever, rookie sensation, lighting up the WNBA. Currently, she's averaging 16 points per game, which is number one amongst all rookies in the WNBA. Recently, they made the announcement for the ladies' Olympic team, and Caitlin Clark was not on that list. Many fans and even some existing players in the league feel that she got snubbed. Many people also feel on the other side that she needs to gain a little bit more experience on the professional level. This is an interesting topic, Solomon, because according to the chairperson of the Olympic Committee, Miss Rizzotti, she says it's all about chemistry and skills. That's part of the selection criteria, according to her. Well, speaking of skills, does Caitlin Clark have skills, y'all?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, she got skills. Does Caitlin Clark have chemistry on a level that these other players have? I got news for you. They're all equivalent because none of these players are coming from the same team. Majority of these players are being handpicked from different teams around the league. So when you talk about chemistry and development, that's going to have to come over time through you practicing with each other, developing that connection, developing that work-related habits. All of that comes when you get together and you prepare for the Olympic Games. So in my book, Jen Rizzotti, which she had called, skills and chemistry, I think it kind of conflicts what they're doing. Because if it was based on chemistry, why would you be pairing everybody up from all these different teams?
Yeah.
They've played against each other now, but they haven't played together on that level. Maybe a few, but not all. So what's your take on this situation? Solomon, talk to me about what your thoughts are, and then I'll give you my take on it.
Yeah, well, the whole thing about chemistry, that really doesn't fly. Like every year you take these people and put together. There's no guaranteed spots on the Olympic team for men or women. But you develop the chemistry as you practice. And my understanding is they're not going to have a ton of practice time anyway. So these guys are going to get out on the floor. And let's not forget that the USA women's basketball team has been highly successful year after year after year. So it's not even really a question of all of that. Now, if you ask my opinion if she should be on the team or not, I would say it was not a snub. I don't think she should have been selected because she just got to the WNBA. That would be my reasoning. I mean, I think there are people who, have the pedigree and the track record and the stats that show that they're one of the top teams. Now,
right.
The argument, of course, is what are you trying to do? Are you trying to put together the best team? Or are you trying to put together the most marketable team? And this is where people have this controversy, and you have a lot of, NBA players going out there talking about, well, they're trying to grow their league, and if they want to, they need to put their most marketable players out there on the world stage. I don't know that that's really something that applies to the WNBA. I don't believe the WNBA, benefits financially from the Olympics. So, people know who she is. If they sell more tickets at the Olympics, does that really impact the WNBA? Probably not. But, they're selling out more arenas. I saw some stats yesterday. They've sold out, ton of games this year, and not all Caitlin Clark games. I mean, some of only 9 were those, and the rest of them, they were quite a few sellouts. And so the WNBA itself is growing. But I think, if you want to put her on the team as a sub, I think as an alternate, which is what they've done, that's fine. But I don't feel like she should have just automatically been, awarded a spot on that team. There are some really highly qualified players who deserve that.
Well said. And speaking of highly qualified players, Kelsey Plum, the world champion Vegas Aces, she won back-to-back titles with the Aces. She's on the team. And you got Jackie Young, who won the gold with the 3-on-3 team a few years back in the Olympics. They're on the team together, but they don't play together currently in the WNBA.
Right.
On the same team. I personally, this is my take on the Caitlin Clark situation. As great as a phenomenon as she is a generational talent in my book. I don't believe that she's ready in terms of Olympic competition because she hasn't played long enough on the professional level. I'm not hating on her. She is one of the more popular, iconic players. Does she bring a level of markability and revenue to the game? Absolutely. Does she bring an elevated level of excitement? Hell yeah, she does. But at the end of the day, Caitlin, as much love as I got for you, I love your response to this. She didn't come off as being bitter or having an attitude or having a chip on her shoulder.
That spoke volumes, too.
That's the maturity, right? That's the maturity level. Where is she at up here, right? Because 4 years from now, provided she stays healthy, she will be on that Olympic team. She will capture gold medals in her lifetime. That's how great of a generational talent she is. But I personally don't think she was snubbed. I don't think they hated on her. I don't think it was time. And everybody has to wait their turn, right? And her time is coming. Right now, her time is now to shine in the WNBA. Despite the struggles of the Indiana Fever, attendance is up, revenue is up, TV deals are up. They're traveling, chartered flights. There's been a lot of good changes that have been brought to the league, not just because of Caitlin Clark, but because of some of these other ladies that have been putting in their blood, sweat, and tears into this game, into this league for the last 5 to 10 years. So I've been interested in the WNBA more in recent years, even before Caitlin Clark came out of Iowa. But now the interest seems to have peaked at an all-time high. So I think we both agree there.
Yeah.
Shout out to Caitlin Clark. Shout out to the Indiana Fever. Shout out to the Olympic squad and Kelsey Plum and all the players. I think that they can capture gold. Hopefully they'll go down to Paris, France and take care of business. We shall see how that all plays out. Moving on. It's time to talk some hip-hop. West in the building. The Chupacabra album. Shout out to my man Problem and my big player partner DJ Quik. They got a joint project called Chupacabra, streaming on all platforms. Make sure y'all go out and support that. I listened to the project not only earlier today, but the last few days I've been banging it, and there's a lot of slappers on there. They got a lot of hot guest features on there. I mean, Bun B is on the album. Jay Worthy. I mean, you got The Game. I mean, you got Rodney O. There's a lot of good featured artists on this project. Wiz Khalifa, I love what they did with it. When you got DJ Quik as a producer, and then you got Jay Worthy coming in as an executive producer, shout out to him for putting this all together. We were at the listening party a few weeks back at an exhibit spot in Bel Air, and it was a great time. And me and my man Capiche and Problem and DJ Quik, we were in the building, man. Wiz Khalifa pulled up. It was a great time. And the album sounds phenomenal. Acoustically, I love the music. I love what he was able to do to incorporate all the different styles. And there's just a lot of funk. It's just that West Coast heavy funk, oriented project, and a lot of bangers on that record. So make sure that y'all cop that Chupacabra. Definitely a masterpiece of a project. There's a lot of good West Coast music dropping right now. This is one of my favorites. So if you haven't heard already, it's a joint project from my man Problem and DJ Quik, and it is a problem because the project is that dope. So make sure y'all support. You go out and cop that. Shout out to the legend DJ Quik. Shout out to The Game, who's also on the album. Shout out to Problem, everybody involved, Jay Worthy, the whole squad. But I just can't stop listening. I mean, I'm just loving everything. Since I Was Lead, that single right there is fire. I mean, there's so many good songs, but
I gotta check it out.
Yeah, you gotta check that out, man. It definitely deserves a listen. And when you listen to it, I recommend just kind of be in a room by yourself where there's no distractions. Put it on, just press play, and just listen to it from start to finish, because Every song sounds different. Nothing sounds the same. A lot of West Coast classic beat and work and samples and 808s, and I just love the guitar work. There's just a lot of good stuff to say about it. It's just a great project. Currency's on the album. I mean, he's got the Free Nationals band. They usually get on the road and they tour a lot on the road, but the Free Nationals band is on there and on that project, and they sound hella dope. And I'm just really excited, to see where that will go. But West, shout out to Problem, shout out to DJ Quik. Dope project. Chupacabra, make sure y'all cop that, all right? No cap. It's official. Now, moving on. I got to give major props, major love, major respect to the legend, Mr. Charles Barkley. Big surprise last night, Solomon. On NBA TV, he basically said he's calling it quits after next year, whether TNT can, renegotiate their contract with the NBA or not. Charles Barkley said that he's done. He had 24 years with TNT, and he's a legend.
Yeah.
Not only as a player, a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah.
Never did capture that vaunted championship ring, but I love him anyway. But a legend as a broadcaster and just as an analyst and as a media personality. So many years of laughter, so many years of just funny moments. And one thing that stuck out to me with Charles Barkley over the years on TV is he was never afraid to really just express how he truly felt.
Yeah.
He didn't give a damn what you thought. If you love him, hate him, like him sometimes, hate him the other times. He didn't really care. He was just doing him. And he added a level of authenticity and a level of expression that is unmatched. I haven't seen anybody captivate TV audiences the way that Mr. Barkley would do his thing over the years. I really grew fonder of him as a man, as a professional, as a media superstar. I learned so much more about Barkley after he put the basketball down. When he played with the Sixers, when he played with the Suns, I saw him a couple times in person when he played, and he was a legend. They used to call him the round mound to rebound when he came out of Auburn because he was such a bigger guy, but he could handle the ball and had so much agility and athleticism on the court. So his greatness didn't stop in the NBA, right? So once he retired and he became a broadcaster, I didn't really know what to expect in the beginning. I didn't really, to be honest, pay much attention to it. But over the years, as his popularity grew, as his knowledge of the game grew and his insight, I had nothing but love and respect and further interest and just watching and learning. I mean, I think we all learned something from Charles Barkley over the years. So I was truly sad to hear that, man. But I also respect the level of grace and transparency that he's always exemplified, right? So he just gave it to us raw and uncut like he always has. Tell me about Barkley over the years for you. How did that resonate with you, Solomon, with his career?
Well, the thing that I've always loved about him, and I think the area where he really blazed some trails is, when most sportscasters get out there, they never really give a true opinion. It's more like, well, I'll say this, if it goes this way, then this will happen. If it goes that way, this will happen. And
right. He
just went out and just said, oh, they're going to lose. Or, that's a horrible team. And he was just, like you said, he just said what he thought, but he was so definitive about it. And most broadcasters were always scared to do that because maybe they don't want to piss somebody off or whatever that is. But he sort of made that to become sort of something that's now acceptable in broadcast, to be able to really say, here's what I think, and I back it up with experience. And so I think that's where he blazed trails. And then the funny thing, I think as he matured and got put with certain people, he became funnier and people started to take his jokes and make it, it just made him funnier. I think people look at him before as almost like a smart aleck kind of character, but you combine him with Kenny Smith and then you bring on Shaq later on. And I gotta admit, when I saw Shaq join that team, I thought, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work. Yeah. Mr. Mumblemouth Shaq, he gets so serious and he's very sensitive about certain things and all of that, but they made it work. I don't know if it was real or fake, some of the arguments they had back and forth, but it became great television in addition to great sports commentary. So I love that. Now, in terms of how I feel about him retiring, I don't really know how I feel yet because it really depends on what he's going to do next. I mean, he's created celebrity for himself, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him in some other capacity, but still telling jokes, being definitive, and being the person he's become. So I'm looking forward to that.
Right. Well, I know who is happy to hear him go. The women in San Antonio, because
that was funny. Yeah.
He was clowning them for years when the Spurs had their dominance under Coach Popovich.
Yeah.
I've been all over Texas, Solomon. I've never been down to the Alamo, so to speak, in San Antonio. I hear there's some beautiful ladies down there, though.
Yeah.
So any of y'all San Antonian women watching the show, give us some love and a shout out because, we love y'all back. It's all love. One day I'll find out. I'll take a trip down there. But Barkley was really critical of the women in San Antonio. I don't know where that came from, if he had a bad experience. All I know is San Antonio is basically very happy to see Barkley leave the broadcasting ranks.
I think ultimately it became all love, though. Sort of like a back and forth between those two. So,
Yeah.
I think it's all good now. They'll probably miss him, too, because he put them on the map a little bit.
He did. And hey, I'm not mad at him. I got nothing but love for Charles. Iconic figure, sports broadcasting legend, NBA Hall of Famer. Thank you for motivating me. I learned a lot just watching you. And I wish I could have worked with you in some capacity, but you never know.
You never know.
You never know. That's the beauty of this whole situation. So with that being said, we appreciate the love. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. You're watching Sports Hop Media. This is episode 28. It's your boy Mack B. Solomon's in the building. Keep it locked. Thanks for watching Sports Hop. Subscribe here for all the latest news on hip hop and sports. It's your boy Mack B.